Thank you. So this is a picture of my mom. Well, I mean, it's a representation of my mom, because if you were to see my mom in the hotel lobby or at a conference, you would think, I don't know what you're talking about, Laura. She's a sweet old lady. She's so nice. But my mom has a very short fuse. You know, I'm talking about the fuse like if you get bad customer service or somebody doesn't, greet you the right way, she can just go, very stressful, right? Now, I love my mom, but her short fuse actually got her in the hospital about a year ago. She was actually having heart issues, ended up in the hospital. We flew to Michigan to see what was going on and found out that her cardiologist that she had been seeing for years prior had her on the wrong medicine, which ended up putting her in the hospital. So we interviewed a bunch of cardiologists, found a new one who figured out that she had the wrong medicine, put her on the right medicine, and she's doing great, thankfully. Now, a couple months after she's out of the hospital, everything's great, I call her and I said, just wanted to check in, and I said, Mom, how's everything going with the new cardiologist? And she's terrible, awful. I'll never go to him again. I refuse to ever see him again. And I thought, it's only been a couple months. Like, what happened? Like, he must have misdiagnosed her or treated her poorly or something clinically went wrong. Like, Mom, what happened? You loved him when we were up there. She says, well, I'll tell you what happened. She says, I was going in for my regular follow-ups and I had an appointment scheduled for Thursday afternoon at 3. And I knew I had it scheduled for Thursday afternoon at 3 because your dad plays golf on Thursdays. So I was going to do stuff around the apartment, and then I was going to meet him after the appointment for senior dinner. Now, she didn't say senior dinner, but I knew what that meant, right? They were going to meet early to have their dinner. She said, so that day of the appointment, I was working around the apartment. I got all ready. I drove a half an hour across town. I walked into the office, and the two girls were standing behind the monitor, and they're kind of whispering to each other, and they said, have a seat, ma'am, just have a seat. So she's there about 10 minutes before the appointment. She sits down. She's reading the magazine. Now it's about 5 minutes after she's supposed to be seen. She looks up, and the two girls now who are behind the monitor standing are now down below the monitors whispering. The one girl sticks her head up and says, ma'am, what's your name? She says, well, my name's Mrs. Yerrick. And she gets up and she walks. She said, is there an issue? I have an appointment today at 3. They said, no, ma'am, I'm sorry, you don't have an appointment today. She said, no, I have an appointment today. I was here 2 weeks ago. I have the card at home. I know I have an appointment today. They said, no, ma'am, your appointment's tomorrow. And she said, no, I'm 100% sure my appointment was today. I remember you guys giving me the card. I booked it on Thursday because I'm meeting my husband afterwards. I have an appointment today. They said, no, ma'am, sorry, you have to come back tomorrow. She says, listen, I drove a half an hour across town. I know it was for today at 3. Is there any way you can squeeze me in? It's a 5-minute follow-up appointment. Is there any way you can make it work? I drove all the way here. They said, no, ma'am, I'm sorry, you have to come back tomorrow. And my mom ran out of that office and said, I'm never going back to that doctor again. Now, my question to you is, I'm not saying whether they should have seen her or not. I'm not going over their scheduling policy, but my question to you is, she refuses to see that cardiologist, her heart doctor, because of the way they handled her appointment. Now, do you think that that doctor has any idea? Absolutely not, right? That doctor has no clue. My mom won't go see her heart doctor because how the front office team handled her appointment. And when I heard that story, I thought, that's it. That's it with us in dentistry. I mean, we're not cardiologists, but we are their healthcare providers. And my mom refuses to see her doctor, and that doctor has no idea because of the front office team. And that is my mantra with Front Office Rocks, is to teach front office team members, but we're the first and last impression for every appointment. Now, I said to my mom, is there any way you would go back? Would you consider maybe call the doctor, send him an email? Would you go back? She said, well, I went back. I said, you did? She said, yep, I drove all the way home. I called your dad. I canceled dinner. I drove all the way back, went through my junk drawer, found the appointment card that said Thursday at 3, drove back to their appointment, went in, slammed it on the desk and said, told you I have an appointment at 3. Now, this is what I try to make sure that our team members understand. Our front office team, our assistants, our hygienists, we are the backbone of the practice. We are the ones who give the patients the impression, the experience. I don't know if you know this or not, but patients don't know if you're a good dentist. They really don't. I mean, they know your bedside manner, but they don't know if it was a good margin. They don't know if it was a good impression, but they know how they feel when they're in the office. So I'm all about making sure that the teams are involved in the growth of the practice. It's all about the team. And doctors haven't been trained much in this. And unfortunately, we don't give team members much training in this. So we have a lot of offices who are super busy. right? Have you ever been to an office where everyone's running around? Everybody's busy. And you ask them, what are you doing? I'm busy. What are you doing? I'm busy, really busy, right? But are we all working towards the same goal? And the thing is that the team cannot read the doctor's minds. We don't know, where do you want to go with your practice? How do you want to get there? How can we help? If you want to build a team that rocks, start talking to your team. Put goals out there. Let's get systems in place so that the team knows where you're taking the practice. No, I feel like we have an epidemic in our industry of dental box versus business box, right? I was married to a dentist through dental school, and in 4 years of dental school, he took one business class about how to get a loan. That was it. They didn't teach him anything else. They didn't teach him the hiring, the firing, how to manage the team, any of that. And then we have team members who we take them their very first day, we throw them on the phones and we say, here's our insurance plans, here's the codes we do, good, have fun, good luck. We don't teach our team members. So we end up in these dental boxes. And I know when an office is in a dental box. When I hear things like, oh, we have a new patient today, that's awesome. What kind of insurance do they have? Or I have to treatment plan this patient, how much do they have remaining? Right? Or we need more new patients. I'm gonna tell you this. We don't need more new patients. I'm not saying new patients aren't great, but what we need to do is fix our backdoor problem. We have a huge backdoor problem in our industry, and I believe that there's two reasons why. One is we don't have the right systems in place. We're not training our teams well how to make sure patients appoint, how to present treatment, how to handle insurance questions, how to talk about finances. And our second problem is we're not giving our patients amazing customer service. Patients expect more now when they come to the office. And I feel that there's 3 different types of service you can give a patient: awful, average, and amazing. Now, if you're here, you're probably not doing awful, right? You've invested in yourself, you're here learning. But if you're just doing average treatment, average customer service, averagely taking care of your patients, there's a dentist down the street who would love to do it. I live in Southern California, and I right now could go to any dentist, probably get my teeth cleaned, my car washed, a new Sonicare, and they'll babysit my kids. There's another dentist who will take your patients. So we need to focus more on what's going on inside of our practice. You have full control of what happens inside of your practice. So let's start focusing on how do we get our team trained? How do we invest in our team? Where are we going with our practice? And how do we give our patients amazing experience? Now, I recently went to this amazing seminar, it was Entre Leadership Seminar, and I think every dentist in the world should go to this seminar because it was a real great seminar about leadership and growing your practices. And I saw Simon Sinek speak, and I thought this is the basics of what we need to teach all of our dentists. Minimally, doctors need to know, to talk to your team to say, why are we here, right? We are healthcare providers. We help our patients live longer and live a better life. Your team members need to feel that with everything that they do. So why are we here? Where are we going? And what do we stand for? If you can just get your team on board with that, that's the foundation of everything that you need. I also believe that we need to realize that we can control what happens within our 4 walls. There's too many people who are complaining about the economy and recession and competition. You can't do anything about that. But what you do have control over is how well is your team scheduling? How are they talking to patients? Are we reappointing? Are we asking for referrals? Next, we want to communicate. Doctors, if you think you're communicating with your team, do it 10 times more. Your team needs to hear what you're thinking, and your team needs to be heard. So communicate. I also think I wrote a book called Step Away from the Drill, specifically to show dentists that yes, production is great, filling the schedule is great, but at the end of the day, sometimes we need to step away from the drill and just work on our practices, work with our teams, support your team. And lastly, train. We don't train well in the dental office. Take time, go to conferences, learn, teach your team. I just recently did a scheduling seminar. Somebody's been a scheduler in my audience who's never been taught how to schedule, and she's been a scheduler for 3 years in a dental office. How is she going to be a great scheduler if she doesn't get the training? So make sure that you invest in your team. Now, I have dentists who will say to me, but Laura, it costs money to take them to conferences and teach them. And I love this quote where I understand it's an investment in your team, but the worst thing about training your employees and having them leave, worse from that, is not training them and having them stay. So I hope that you got some tips out of this today. My name is Laura Hatch. Thank you very much.